sent a card to you that said banana, what would you do? If I went like this, I had a flashlight for banana, and I went like this, what would you do? You would read it, right? You would say banana. So that's your SD. Okay? So I would hold up my flashcard, which is my SD, and then I would use a prompt. Now there's different types of prompts that you can use, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So you would present your SD, which is the flashcard, prompt immediately, still part of the antecedent, then the behavior occurs, which is the response, then your consequence, which is your reinforcement at the end. Okay? So prompting gets the behavior to occur in the correct situation because we don't want the learner to error, to make a mistake. Why do you think we don't want them to make a mistake? Okay, but why else? Think about it. When someone's trying to teach you something new, something that you've never done before, and you always make an error, how do you think that's going to make you feel? Excited or frustrated? Frustrated. So because we don't want our learner to get frustrated, possibly have more behaviors during the teaching procedure, we use prompting. Because we want that learner to grasp what it is we're teaching faster. And we want to minimize the number of errors. Okay? Alright. Okay, so there are different two classifications of prompts. There's response prompts and stimulus prompts. Okay? First, I'm going to talk about response prompts. With response prompts, okay, yes, the definition involves the behavior of another person, which is going to be the teacher. If I'm teaching someone how to read or say a word, then I'm going to be delivering response prompts. Okay? And the first type of response prompt is a verbal prompt. So, if I were to use a verbal prompt, and I'm teaching someone how to say the word banana when I present my SD, pretend this is my flashcard, then I'm going to deliver the SD, and I'm going to verbally say the word. So I'm going to show them and say banana. Then they will respond with banana. I'm going to say good job, or whatever it is, right? That is a verbal prompt, saying the word. Okay? If this is what I'm teaching them, right?
I'm sorry. It's the same thing if you're actually holding the banana too. That's the SD as well, and you're saying banana.
Yeah. So whatever your target is, this is reading, right? But if I was teaching them how to label the item, yeah, I'm going to have the object or a picture of a banana, hold it up, and my SD then would be, what is it? Right? So if I'm teaching bottle, then I would say, what is it? Bottle. So I say the SD, what is it? Right? I hold this in front of them. My verbal prompt would be saying it. So what is it? Bottle. What is, and then I would ask her again, what is it? And then I would fade my prompt for her to just respond independently. And then I would reinforce. Okay? So verbal prompts, all that means is just saying the correct response before the learner responds. So you have to be quick when you deliver your prompts. Okay? Then the next one would be gestural prompt. And just how it sounds, a gesture. So I'm not going to verbally say the correct response, but I might either, point point to something, or so example, if I wanted them to read, I would, instead of maybe verbally saying the word, I would hold it up and point, so they'll know that I want them to read the word, right? So I'd hold it up and I would just gesture. Pointing. If I am asking, let's say I'm doing more of a receptive command, so asking her to give me something. And let's say I have two items here, for those of you that can't see. Let's say I have a phone and a water bottle. And I'm trying to teach her how to receptively give me phone. Okay? So I would place them both on the table, and then I would say, place my demand, which let's say is give me phone. I want her to give me phone. So I say, give me phone, and then I'll point. So she'll know which one to give me. And then I take it, and then I'll probably move it around, and then I'll fade it. So then I'll say, give me phone. Okay, so a gesture. Pointing, I can either point, or I could move it. So I could say, give me phone, and I'll move it closer to her. Okay? So that's gestural prompts. Modeling. Basically how it sounds. Imitating, showing them the behavior. If I'm asking her to clap her hands, then I would say, clap your hands. And I would do it with, right? I'd model the response, whatever it is. If you're teaching someone to hit a ball, you might use modeling prompts. Showing them how to hold the bat, showing them what position to stand, right? How to swing, all of that. You would model the behavior before they respond. Okay? And then the last type of response prompt is physical. Physical just means that you're actually going to guide them. So let's say here, I ask her, it's the phone in the bottle, and I'm asking her to give me phone. Instead of using a gesture by just pointing to it, a physical prompt would be me actually saying, presenting my SD, give me phone, and then I'm going to grab her hands, pick it up, and give it to me. So kind of hand over hand guidance, that's what you could say, for physical. Hand over hand, actually being there. If I'm showing someone to hit a bat, I'll be right behind them, right, grabbing their hand, picking up the bat, showing right there, physically guiding them step by step. Okay. I'll stop there. Okay, so these are all different types of response prompts. Okay. Any questions over the response prompts? Okay. Which do you think is least intrusive? Verbal. And which do you think is most? Physical. Yeah. Keep that in mind. We're going to come back to it. Okay, the next type of prompting is stimulus prompts. Okay? With stimulus prompts, this involves a change that you're going to make within your stimulus that you're presenting. And so I'm going to give you some examples. The first type is the within stimulus prompt. And with this, that's where you're going to either change the position of an SD or change some type of dimension of it. So for example, I'm going to move it over here. Let me show you. So let's say you were trying to teach someone to discriminate between big circle and little circle. Okay? If I want to use a within stimulus prompt, what I'm going to do is, let's say I draw a little circle, and I'm trying to teach them big circles. So what I would do is have my two circles, and the one I'm trying to teach, which is the big circle, is maybe darken the circle. Okay? Changing the intensity of the color of it, changing some type of the dimension of the stimulus is an example of within stimulus prompts. So I would say, I would make this circle darker, and I would say, point to the big circle. And so, if you were to see this, right, that's pretty obvious. You point to this one, to the correct response. Okay? If you, also kind of what I did with the phone, changing the position. If I wanted her to select the correct item, I'd move it closer to her. I'd change the position so she wouldn't err. So the correct response would be closer to her rather than further away. Okay? The next type is the extra stimulus prompt. And your book had a good example of this one, which was if you're trying to teach a child, let's say, right hand from left hand, which I know even some adults now still get confused, right? An extra stimulus prompt would be maybe marking their right hand. So you can mark it with an X. So that way when you ask them, raise your right hand, they'll remember. Okay, the one with the X, that's my right hand. So that way they won't err. Okay. Also, you can use some other examples of extra stimulus prompts would be using flashcards. Okay, so some that have the answers on the back. So if you give them like a flashcard that says 2 times 2, and on the back they can flip over it. Okay, that's 4. That would be an extra stimulus prompt. So now, although prompting is used to get these behaviors to occur and to teach new behaviors, we don't want to leave our learners prompt dependent. So we don't want to always have to highlight and darken the bigger circle every time we present the problem, because are they going to do that at school? Probably not, right? Especially if they're mainstream, they probably will not. What if one day they forget to mark their right hand with an X? How are they going to learn? How are they going to remember? So we use we transfer that stimulus control of the prompts, and we fade them out. Okay, we want to fade out our prompts. Because yes, the goal is to have the behavior occur without any type of assistance. Okay, so there's different types of fading that we use. And the first one that we're going to talk about is prompt fading. Okay, so prompt fading. This is the first type of transfer stimulus control that we use. And with prompt fading, you're going to use this with the response prompts. Which ones are the response prompts? What's one? Verbal, gestural, physical, and model. Okay. So we use prompt fading with those 4 prompts, response prompts. And there's different types. Okay? The first type is fading within that prompt. For example, if I'm going to use, let's say, a verbal prompt. So I'm saying the word banana, right? So I would present the SD, I say banana, somebody else says banana, stimulus control, and I want to fade out my prompts, and I'm going to be using prompt fading. So now I'm going to fade within my prompt. So you use verbal, right? You said the whole word. If I'm going to fade within my prompt, now I'm just going to say maybe banana and leave out the last part. So next time I'm going to present, I'm going to say banana, and then they're going to say banana. Okay, great. Blah, blah, blah. Then the next time, I might just say the B sound. So I'm going to present, I'm going to go fade within my prompt, saying less and less of the word. So that way next time, I just present my card, and then eventually I'm not going to say a prompt at all, and the person is just going to respond correctly. Okay? Yes? Now, if I'm going to fade across prompts, just how it sounds. If I use, let's say, least to most prompting, which response prompt do you think I would use first if I'm using least to most? The verbal, because that's the least intrusive prompt. Then, which one do you think I would use? If I'm doing least to most, so it would be verbal, it's verbal, gestural, modeling, and then physical. Okay? Now, least to most prompting is only used with behaviors that are already learned. So they've already been learned, they've done it before, but I need to get them to start occurring again. Okay? So it's in their repertoire to do this behavior. So I'm going to start off with my least intrusive prompts. That way I can fade it out really quickly. Okay? Most to least prompting would be used if I'm teaching new behaviors to occur. Because I don't want them to error. So I might start with maybe not a physical, but a modeling prompt or a gestural prompt. And then work my way down. So then let's say I start with gestural, I'll fade that, then I'll just do a verbal, then I'll fade that.
But if it's brand new, you'd probably start off with the physical.
Yes. Okay. It also depends on the level of the learner, right? Where they're at. And you'll be able to tell whether, well, no, I'm going to need a full physical prompt to get this behavior to occur. Okay, but remember, nothing is set. Like, okay, well, I'm teaching a new behavior, so I have to start with physical prompt. It all depends on your learner and where they're at. Okay. All right. Another way that I can fade my prompt is to present what's called a prompt delay. Meaning, and it says here, so the teacher shows the word to Natasha and waits 4 seconds. If she does not say the word, then the teacher will say the word as a prompt. So let's say that I've already presented, I've done my verbal prompt and I show her the word, I say banana, she says banana, right? I present it again. I'm going to now use a prompt delay. So I'm not going to say a prompt. And 4 seconds is a lot. Typically, if they don't respond within 2 seconds, at the most 2 seconds, you want to deliver the prompt. Okay? But anyway, so a prompt delay would just be presenting your SD, waiting for 2 to 4 seconds, I say 2, for the person to respond. Because you have to think, right? When you read, do you see a word and then delay. That's another way to state our prompt. Is everybody doing, am I going too fast? Okay. Next, stimulus fading. This would be used if you're using your back to the within stimulus prompt. Okay? So I have my big circle and my little circle, and I'm trying to teach, for them to identify the big circle. So I highlight it really, 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 really dark. So now when I want to use a stimulus fading, I'm going to, let's say next time, each time I present it to them, I'm going to fade out how dark it is. To where eventually it's going to be very, very light. So I might just to where I can have it normally how it would look, right? So they're both the same. Okay. I mean, you can do this, let's say, with tracing. If you're trying to teach them to trace numbers, right? You would have, let's say, you're trying to teach them, how to write the number 1. So at the beginning, and you can't really tell, but this is supposed to be darker. You have it darkened, okay, to where they can, just trace the number. And then the next one would be a little lighter. And then the next one would be eventually a little lighter. And then the next line you would just say, write number 1. And to where they don't even need, right, a stimulus prompt, and then they can just independently write it on their own. Okay, so that's a stimulus fading. Okay, so this last slide just kind of outlines the steps that you would take when using prompting and transferring a stimulus control. And of course, step 1, choosing the most appropriate prompting strategy. First of all, am I going to use response prompts or am I going to use stimulus prompts? Which one do I need to use? It depends on what skill it is you're trying to teach. If you're trying to use a writing skill, you'll probably use a stimulus prompt better than a response prompt. Okay? If you're trying to teach them to say a word, you'll probably use a response prompt. Okay? So deciding which one you're going to use is important. Getting the learner's attention. They have to be motivated. What type of reinforcers are you using? Okay? That's important to look at. And then the third step, present the discriminative stimulus. So if I want, if you're having them read a word, have your flashcard out. That's your SD. Okay? Having your SD. Prompt the correct response. We don't want them to error. Reinforce the behavior. When they respond correctly, give the right amount of reinforcer for that response. If I was using, let's say, gummy bears to reinforce a behavior, and let's say I had to use a verbal prompt for her to say the word banana, I might give a little bit of the gummy bear, just so she'll know, right? Okay, so when I'm reading this, that's what Okay, I get reinforced. Then when she says it independently on her own, when I just present the flashcard, I don't need to say a verbal prompt, and I just present the flashcard, she reads it independently, I'm going to give her the whole gummy bear, right? I'm going to make a party out of it, and I'm going to give her high fives, and because that's what we want. We want her to not be prompt dependent, and we want her to be able to respond correctly on her own. Okay? And then, yes, transferring of stimulus control, making sure you're using, whether it's prompt baiting, stimulus baiting, whichever one. Okay, make sure you're baiting your prompt. And continue to reinforce unprompted responses. So this is where, and this helps with generalization, which is a big deal, which, no, we're not covering that chapter, but it's chapter 19. It's a very short chapter. You know, y'all can read on your own. But generalization is important because that way, when they maybe are at the grocery store and they see the word banana, they're able to read it. And maybe they want banana. Mom's able to understand them, right? They want banana. Oh, here you go. They can give them banana. Always making sure you're reinforcing. I want to show you all some videos. A couple of videos on this prompting and baiting. That way you guys can get more of a visual of what it actually looks like. We'll also give you examples of each.
What's Hiroshi's pottery instructor doing here? She's using gestures, verbal instructions, and demonstrations to teach Hiroshi to make his bowl. This is called prompting. A prompt is a cue or an action to assist or encourage the desired response from an individual.
As best as you can.
What do you want?
There are different kinds of prompts that can be used to encourage any behavior.
Popcorn. What do you want? Popcorn. Ted, what do you want? Popcorn. Okay, good.
Joseph, you need to stay seated. Get to work. So this first question. What is the speaker's mood at the beginning of the poem? Okay, just at the beginning. Once upon a midnight dreary.
One frequently used prompt is the physical prompt. A physical prompt is when the teacher is physically manipulating the individual to produce the desired response. Simply put, it is when you use physical guidance, such as touch or a hand over hand, to help the student learn the correct response.
Go wash your hands. Go wash your hands.
Eventually, the degree of touch can be lessened and the student will be able to perform the task independently.
What do you want? Oh, you want the popcorn!
difficulty with writing. By using hand over hand to correctly teach writing letters, his rate of success will increase, and his frustration with the task will decrease.
Okay, and the letter C. Good job. Okay, let's write the letter C. You gotta look at the letter C, come on.
Physical prompts can be used to assist the child during periods of noncompliance. However, discretion must be used when deciding on physical prompts. Physical prompts can be overly intrusive. You want to use the least intrusive prompts to increase independence.
Thank you. Good. Do this. Ow! Ow! Do this. Thanks.
Another type of prompt is a verbal prompt. A verbal prompt is when we use vocalizations to indicate the desired response. Verbal prompts can be an utterance such as a sound or a part of a word, many words, or even as long as several sentences. For example, when singing the ABCs, some kids need a bit of help remembering the song, so we can start to sing and help the child begin. This is an example of a verbal prompt. One of Ortez's communication barriers is his inability to articulate words. He says words throughout the day, but only few people understand what he's saying. The smallest verbal prompt can help Ortez put the right sounds together. This is called a phonemic prompt.
Norman, let's do it! Woohoo! Wow! Crash landing! Crash landing!
A phoneme is a small sound in a word. If Ortez's teacher wants to help him say popcorn, she can provide a phonemic prompt to help him shape his articulation.
You can do it. Popcorn. Whoa! Good job, Dad. Look at all the popcorn. Good, Dad.
Another type of verbal prompt is a question prompt, or intraverbal prompt. An intraverbal prompt is a question that leads the child to the correct response.
Where do pigs live? On the farm. Farm. Good. So where does he work?
Verbal prompts are often difficult to fade. Children often rely on verbal prompts, so fading the prompt can be tricky. Depending on the student, you might want to go with prompts that are less intrusive. Visual prompts are a good alternative. A visual prompt is a visual cue or picture. A visual cue can be any object or printed material that is used to help teach a new behavior. Here are some examples of how you can use visual prompts to teach behavior.
Okay, can you draw a square? You draw a square. Oh, good job. Okay. Clock. Oh, okay, a clock. Let's get clock. Let's get clock. Clock. Wow, that was good. Clock. Good job. Okay.
A gestural prompt is using a physical gesture to indicate the desired response. For example, pointing or even a subtle glance towards the intended object is a gestural prompt. Gestural prompts are good prompts to use in the place of verbal prompts They are easy to fade and can be extremely subtle.
Down!
Ready?
The phone turned on. Nice job. Way to go. Good job, matching. You did a good job. Good job. What's missing? What's missing? Duck's missing. Uh-oh. Good work. Hey, stretch those hands. Go sit on your ladder. Yeah. Wait, the thumb's over there. There we go. Are you ready? Today's date is 5/14. Put it under today.
This is gesturing, right? Or no?
Positional prompts are when the target is placed closer to the individual. First, the card is placed closest to them. Then, as the response becomes more independent, the card will be moved farther away from them.
What is it?
Eventually, the card will be placed in a small array or group. This is when discrimination skills are taught.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, give me 5. You are so smart. Give me ambulance. Good job, Keenan. You are so smart. Do this. Say hip hip.
Hooray!
Oh, you are so smart. Give me ambulance. Slide it across. Do this. What am I doing?
Say hello.
Mm-hmm. Name a color.
Red.
Red is a color. What's your name?
You.
Give me ambulance. Awesome, buddy. Some popcorn. So that's actually how, it was really short, but that's how a section actually goes when we'll mix up what we call different verbal operands. That's another class, something you'll learn later. But yeah, it's to keep the pace going. And that pace that she was using, that's what you want to do during your sessions. It has to be fast paced. And did you see at the last, the positional prompts? They kind of broke it down. You know, I know yours book only gives you the 4, which that's all I want you to know is just the 4. It's just, you know, kind of broke it down. But anyway, at the beginning when she was teaching it, she had the ambulance really close to the student, and then immediately you saw that she faded it and she positioned it with the other 2 distractor cards. And so that's what you want to do. You want to make sure, like, within the same session, if you can, fade out your prompts. And that way now, he just knows it. Okay. And what's the other one? Oh, prompt.
Paint. 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 Good. Paint. Good painting. That's the way. Keep going.
We are now going to discuss 3 ways to make sure our students don't get dependent on prompts: time delay, prompt fading, and stimulus fading. Time delay basically transfers stimulus control to the natural stimulus by delaying the presentation of the prompt after the natural stimulus has been presented. In other words, you begin to provide prompts immediately after the task is presented. Then, after more confidence is built, you delay the prompt 2, 3, then 4 seconds to allow for them to respond to the SD rather than to the prompt.
Camera. Nice, Artez. Nice job. Camera.
Thank you. Nice job. Get him in the camera. Have a raisin.
Prompt fading is used to quickly reduce assistance to a less intrusive prompt. Let's go back to Artez. Here, his tutor is teaching him to point when asked, "What do you want?" Kelly begins by placing the popcorn bag close to Artez, as well as placing his hand on the bag of popcorn. By fading her touch from a full hand over hand to a light touch on the hand, she is attempting to fade the physical prompt. Eventually, Artez will be able to independently point to the bag of popcorn or anything else that he wants. Stimulus fading is highlighting a physical dimension, such as color, size, or position, of a stimulus to increase the likelihood of a correct response. Then the highlighted or exaggerated dimension is eventually faded out. Levi likes to run away from his home. His mom is always worried that he will escape. Levi's mom and teacher have taught him to stay in his boundaries using stimulus prompt fading. Levi's mom reads him a social story about staying in his boundaries.
So when I play outside, I will stay in my boundaries. If I break Mommy's rules for outside, I will have to come inside. I will be sad if I have to come inside.
Then they put bright orange cones around his neighborhood to mark his boundaries. Levi was reinforced for staying within his boundaries when he played. Over time, the cones were faded, and Levi continued to receive reinforcement for staying in his boundaries. Kainoa confuses his teens and 20s when identifying numbers. He often calls 14, 24, or 24, 14. His therapist can use stimulus prompt fading to teach him to discriminate.
What number is it? 24. Good. What number is it? 24. All right. How about this one? 14. Wow. What's this one? 24. All right. Good job. Okay, I'm going to trick you. What number is this?
24.
Nice job. How about this one?
14.
Nice work. One more time. This one.
14.
Wow. How about this one?
24.
All right. Good job, Kai. What's this number?
24.
How about this one?
14.
All right. How about this one?
24.
And 14. Good job, Kai.
There are many programs that use stimulus prompt fading embedded within their curriculum. The Touch Math curriculum uses stimulus prompt fading.
Do y'all remember Touch Math today when you did it? It worked.
Okay, so slowly, go ahead.
I've never had that. I would probably done better.
Yeah.
I would get my fingers
And
up on it.
eventually you fade out the dot, and so when they're just presented with a number, they'll know, like, they can use, they know, they can count.
Did it help you? It did?
It worked, yeah.
Wow. I'm gonna teach my grandson.
Direct instruction reading programs use stimulus prompt fading as well.
Wow, that's something that.
Okay. Let's take a 10-minute break, and then that way we can come back and finish with, start and finish chapter 11. So be back by 5:40.